Alhamdulillah ta'ala nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruh wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina wa man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlil fala hadiya lahu wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu rasuluh. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Indeed, all praise is due to Allah. We praise Him. We seek refuge with Allah from the evil in our soul and from our sinful deeds. Those who are guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no one can misguide them. Those who are not guided by Allah, there is no guide for them. I bear witness that there is no God, there is no deity worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is His servant and messenger. O you who believe, revere Allah and die not except as Muslims. Amma ba'd. I'd like to welcome you to the Islamic Society Leading American Muslims, an organization established to conduct da'wah and to invite people to the true and peaceful message of Islam, to encourage, to nurture, and to educate people who are coming this way, whether you were born into a Muslim family or whether you embraced or came this way later. And saying that it is incumbent upon us all to encourage each other to do that which is right, to enjoin what is right and to forbid what is wrong. And I just want to encourage us as a family that to make sure that whatever we're doing, that we are within the essence of the Quran and the Sunnah. No matter what our behavior is or no matter what we're doing, sometimes I feel that my emphasis on no castigation and no indicting and no criticism might be misread as a license that, well, we can just do anything and Imam Sykes won't criticize us. That's not my intention. My intention is for you to be nurtured and educated, but it is very important. It is incumbent upon all of us that whatever we do know, that we practice that and we live by that. This week we had an exciting meeting with St. Timothy's Catholic community, that's what they call it, in the villages. And we are working on an interfaith service with them. There will be 3 planning meetings before that takes place. I would like to ask you to make dua. I reached out to St. Mark's Presbyterian Church in Altamont Springs. This week I met the minister and talked to him. In Orange City, Florida, there is a minister that I met. He has invited us to his church, and I tried to speak to him this week, and he's in the Holy Lands. So he won't be back until the middle of February. In my experience, it takes typically about 6 months to get into new places. By the time we meet a person, take them out to lunch, talk to them a few times, it seems to take about 6 months to get things going. So I ask you that Allah will put His speed on these things and make these things happen so that we can open these doors to build bridges of understanding. So please pray. The other church that we're working on is Aloma Methodist. I met a man at one of the fairs that we did with the Arab American Community Center, AACC, and he actually offered to help us with our website. And that's a secular Christian that has actually helped us with our website, interestingly enough. Values what we do, sees the need for what we do. So pray that despite the work and all the stuff that we're already doing, that Allah will open the doors for us to get in these places and build relationships of understanding, inshallah. All of the announcements are very clear. In lieu of the potluck, and I really beseech you, that means lovingly beg, I implore you to come to this event. Okay. Oh, there we go. To come to this event in lieu of the potluck. How many here ever attended the Faith Club presentation in the past with Sarah Kruger? Okay, so Maysoon and Naran and I and Susan. This year's event is going to be with none other, one of the co-stars will be Sister Naran Sykes, my beloved wife of 30 years, and she is going to play the role of Aranya, the Palestinian Muslim. So for 3 years they've tried to get Naran to play this role, ever since it started. And so I think it's just was ordained by Allah that, hey, we're going to get you sooner or later, and they got it. So what's really important, and I know that it's an odd time, people are working, but if there's anybody that can go, it is at 4 o'clock, because remember, it's in the villages. It's in a retirement village. Oh, it's on Saturday. That's right, I forgot. I'm thinking about another meeting. It's on 4 o'clock on a Saturday. Please show up. Let them see Muslims at this meeting.
Set up a carpool group.
Yeah. And if you can set up carpool groups, that is great. I know that we live all over the city of Orlando. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. But really, if you can do that, mashallah, it would be great. Please consider to pray for Brother Malik. He's not doing well. He doesn't have any appetite. If brothers can go see him, please. He says he doesn't want company right now, so then what we can do is pray for him. My wife actually is able to keep up with him better than me. But please be in prayer for him, because he is not doing very well. Kathy's parents are also not well, so please be in prayer for Kathy as well. March the 19th, it's a little bit away, but the Muslim Academy of Greater Orlando does a barbecue every year. It's $10 for a ticket. Hadi, I also encourage you, I beseech you, I implore you to go to this, because we are one of the very few organizations that get to use this cafeteria.
But we don't know the date.
Yes, we do, right there, March the 19th, Saturday, March the 19th.
Okay.
So, please, I encourage you to buy a ticket, even if you don't come. Support the school, because they certainly, mashallah, have been more than generous to let us use this facility every weekend. I was actually thinking on the way here, she won't like this, but please take the time to thank Maysoon. She comes an hour every Sunday before everybody else gets here. That's at 10 o'clock. She cleans this place. So when you see these clean tables, if you see this place when she arrives, because I've seen it, you would be shocked at what she does in that hour. Well, Sharon works here, so she wouldn't. But I mean, there's stuff left behind like you wouldn't believe, just everywhere.
Imam Tariq people come here.
Well, I didn't say that. I know you know that, but I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. I just want to thank Maysoon for what she does, because my environment's very important to me. It speaks to ISLAM. It's part of our culture that we leave a place better than we found it, and we always do that. Wherever we
I
go,
will ask that lady, I know her.
Okay, all right.
That what you do in the morning. Because she cook a lot of food, they cook a lot of food, and all the nahari and korma, and they eat a lot of food too.
Oh, Brother Malik's here. I was just talking about you, brother. We're all praying for you. Alhamdulillah. MashaAllah.
Alhamdulillah.
Think of the angel is here.
Angel, yes. So these are the announcements, and what I want to talk about today, we started looking at the tafsir of a verse that actually addresses what is halal and what is haram, but not in the sense of food, even though it says partake.
Yeah.
The scholars in that particular verse talk about how people will partake of cultural things that are not Islamic. They will avoid things and say they're Islamic. Okay, and we talked about examples. And then the next verses actually begin to address the food issue. So today I'm going to talk about, and this may come as a shock to you the way that I address this today, so I'm going to prepare you ahead of time. Just go along with it and examine it. Allow your heart to digest what I say today. And I respect if you don't agree with me, that's just fine. But I prefer you didn't say you don't agree with me in the class. Asking questions is fine, But on the camera, when you go back and look at the class and people are having a debate with the teacher, we're not a debate club. So I respect that. If I say anything wrong and you can show me the Quran or the Sunnah, I will come back on the camera and correct it the following week and ask everybody to forgive me.
Write your questions down and save them.
Yeah, so maybe write down questions and save them for the end. But I just want you to open your heart to hear what I'm going to talk about partially today. And then if we get through it, I get asked the same questions over and over and over again just about everywhere I go. Such things as, is it halal to eat alligator? Can you eat crocodile? Can you eat frog legs? Can you do this? And so I'm going to address why the scholars have said yes or no to these things, and the hadiths to that today, just to help you understand where it comes from. Inshallah, we'll get through all that today. So let's start at the verse 172 and 173. O you who believe in the oneness of Allah, Islamic monotheism, eat of the lawful things that we have provided you with, and be grateful to Allah if it is indeed He whom you worship. He has forbidden you only the ma'ita, dead animals, and blood, and the flesh of swine, and that which is slaughtered as a sacrifice for other than Allah. But if one is forced by necessity without willful disobedience, nor transgressing due limits, then there is no sin on him. Truly Allah is all-forgiving, most merciful. Let me ask you a question. Can I say pork is haram?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
No. It's not haram if my plane lands in the desert somewhere or something and there's nothing that I can eat but pig, is it?
In that
So if I say it's haram, then that means it's haram. We need to be very careful when we say, and this goes back to the previous lesson, something is haram or something isn't haram. In normal circumstances, what's wrong, Noreen?
He says it's forbidden, right there.
Yes.
It is forbidden, except if you read the bottom line here, it says, let's see, but if one is forced by necessity without willful disobedience. I'm not willing to do that. I'm not going to go down to what's not the chart house anymore.
Sonny's barbecue.
Any place and just say, well, you know what? It's really necessary today for me to have some ribs, and I'm going to eat the pork ribs. I'm not going to do that. But understand that to say something is haram is a broad statement that we need to be very careful. And particularly, we've seen that, particularly for new Muslims, we have, everywhere we go, there's a haram policeman. Everything's haram. And we need to be very, very careful not to practice that behavior. It's haram unless for necessity of life, I need to eat it. If my plane crashes and I'm a survivor and I find a can of beer there and I need to be hydrated, is it haram for me to drink that beer? No. So we just need to make sure we recognize that there are many concessions that Allah has given us, and we need to recognize that. But let's don't use that as a license to sin. Because some people can all of a sudden say, well, it was necessary because my desires, when I drove past Sonny's and I had that smell, it was necessary for me to go in there and get some barbecue pork. Yes, sister?
What about, I know drinking alcohol, obviously, you're not supposed to be drinking it, but cooking. If this food is cooked with alcohol, some people say it's burnt and it's all burnt down, and then some people say, no, it's still there, you still have to, you can't eat food.
So here's the ruling on that. Both people are right. It is evaporated if it's of sufficient heat. However, what industry are you supporting if you buy food that has alcohol in it? You're supporting the alcohol industry. So you have a choice. I don't want to get into a debate about it, okay? You have a choice, okay? I'm not going to do that because I don't want to support the industry, okay? Or, you know, it's cooked out. Allahu Alam. You know, because Allah didn't have a verse in the Quran that says, thou shalt not eat beef bourguignon. What's that, brother?
Chicken marsala.
Chicken marsala, yeah. And particularly, I can tell you this. Now, I was at a wedding recently. I was very surprised, and they were serving.
Tiramisu.
No. They were serving some
Banana
kind
muffin.
of dessert
Banana
that had alcohol in it, brandy. And I watched them, and the temperature was not sufficient, I don't believe, to burn it off. So it's risky. So here's where I think we have to be very careful.
I was drunk as a skunk.
When we make people wrong, when we criticize other people, when Allah hasn't specifically addressed it. Do you get me?
Yeah.
Does everybody get me? Okay. So let's move on if we can, because it's simply an argument. There are schools, and I'm going to show you some arguments about other things today. There are some schools that say it's burnout, and there are some schools that tend to go my direction and say you're supporting the alcohol industry. And I don't want to support the alcohol industry. Just like some people, I know Muslims that drink non-alcoholic wine and they drink non-alcoholic beer. And they'll tell you that orange juice in the refrigerator within 2 days has 0.02% alcohol, the same as a dual.
Really? Is that true?
Absolutely, that's a true. Let me just finish and then I'll come to everybody. I know that everybody's so eager about this. This is wonderful. So it's the same amount of alcohol, but am I supporting my intention? Am I supporting the alcohol industry when I buy orange juice and it's in the refrigerator 2 days? No. So we have to, and I don't want you to copy me. If I go out and buy a Prius, I don't want you to go out and buy a Prius because Imam Sykes is driving a Prius. Because I'm not the role model. Our prophet was. And so if you want to follow him, then go buy a camel. And really stick to things, But Allah has given us a lot of mercy. Now there were some questions that Ibrahim.
Red vinegar.
I mean, it was just one quick comment about her question. Basically, if you can't decide whether it's haram or halal, stay away from it.
Yeah. That's a lot of the recommendation. Where there's doubt, stay away. Somebody else?
I wanted to know red vinegar.
What
It is
about-
good for our cholesterol. Red
Red
vinegar.
vinegar is good, yes. Yes.
So it has alcohol?
I would have to see the bottle and read on it.
Yeah.
Now, let me just throw this out because we're getting sort of away from where I wanted to go, and that's okay. I can be very flexible.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll see on a label chocolate liquor. Is that alcohol?
No?
It's not. It's liquid chocolate. In the South, we say, my grandmother used to say, well, I got to make me some chicken liquor for my soup. And all she meant was I'm making chicken stock. So the word liquor is not the same word as liqueur. If it says chocolate liqueur, what does that mean? It has alcohol in it. Tiramisu, for example, is not cooked out. That alcohol is actually put into a coffee, espresso, and dipped, lady fingers are dipped into it, and you're actually absorbing that alcohol when you eat tiramisu, if it has alcohol in it. Not many people make tiramisu, and you know what tiramisu means? Pick me up. It's like, yeah, that's what it means. It's sort of just funny, but in Italian, it's like, pick me up. So I guess if you eat enough tiramisu, you might get picked up. So, did I leave anybody out? Okay. So what we see in these verses that we've been looking at is that earlier the aim was to correct the error made by the mushrikeen when they made unlawful what was good and permissible. So today, we have made some things unlawful in this country that are lawful. Now, when I say that, I'm not advocating for these things, but Allah said that I can have 2, 3, or 4 wives. Now, in this country, it's illegal, and I've chosen to live in this country. But what have we done? We've made laws to make what Allah has made halal haram, and what Allah has made haram, we've made laws to make it halal. So what do? We sell alcohol, and we make a lot of alcoholics. And there is a move toward legalizing drugs in America, and I contend that within a few years, certain drugs will be legalized, and after that, other drugs will be legalized, just like in Germany. That's my prediction. So in verse 172, the believers are being warned against falling into the same error. We know that believers, oh, thank you, Susan. We know that believers have fallen into the same error, this same kind of error. Everywhere you go, people are talking about haram, haram, haram. And it's cultural stuff. You know, I would love to just have a brainstorm session one day where I got a bunch of people together and we just made a list of all the stuff that's cultural, that is not validated in Quran or Sunnah.
I think we should do that.
And I'm very serious, because in my life as a Muslim, I've been told so many things are part of Islam, no verse in the Quran about it, no Sunnah, no hadith about it whatsoever. And so we really want to be careful. We don't want to fall into that trap and be guilty. Allah has forbidden us to do this. And so we covered a lot of things like female genital mutilation that we talked about. This is a cultural practice. It is the problem of that country. It's not an Islamic problem. And we need to make sure we know that whenever we're doing da'wah, to say to people, well, that's really not an Islamic problem. They were doing that before Islam, and there are also Christian groups that do that. But it's specific to that region. So as a corollary, believers are reminded of Allah's blessings and are taught to be grateful to Him. In verse 173, it is made clear that the prohibited must remain prohibited and should never be treated as lawful. Something the disbelievers used to do when they ate carrion or animals slaughtered in the name of others than Allah. Now, one of the pagan practices is they actually took congealed blood and fried it. And that was a delicacy in the time. And this is what some of the scholars say, that this is actually what's being referred to in this verse, was this pagan practice.
Will that the Brits still do that?
Some people still do it, yes. Matter of fact, I remember when I was in South Africa going into a very exclusive market, and there was a pan of blood, and it was for sale. Yeah, blood pudding, yeah.
Vomiting.
Yeah, exactly. Allah commands His believing servants to eat from the pure things. And what I want you to get is that I'm going to talk about a definition of pure. And so even before I go there today, what does pure mean?
Clean for one.
Clean,
Without sin.
without sin,
That Allah's name has been mentioned.
that Allah's name's been mentioned. I want you to step outside of what you already know about. If I say that something is pure, what does it mean about that?
It's in its natural state.
Ah, thank you, sister. I knew I could count on you. It's in its, I like to say, unadulterated. Who said that? Very good. In its natural state. I like to say it's in its spiritual state. It is in the form that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave it to us. And we're going to talk about some things that a lot of us don't know about, that is wrecking our country, our environment, and our bodies. Because we are not eating stuff in its natural state. So bear with me. If you don't agree with me, it's okay. I still love you. I got mad love for you. I'm going to go to your wedding, inshallah. I'm going to go to your funeral, inshallah. Anything, I'm going to be there. But just try to listen if you can, because it's going to be a little bit surprising to you today.
Organic.
Don't give away my secrets, Mommy. Eating from pure sources is a cause for the acceptance of supplication and acts of worship. No, hold on.
No, you were right.
I'm in the right place.
Sorry, we were being,
Okay,
I was
all right.
looking for what you were saying.
Eating from pure sources is a cause for the acceptance of supplication. I'm going to give you a hadith where this comes from. By us eating from pure sources, we open up the gate for Allah to hear our prayer. And I'll give you proofs in a minute. Just as eating from impure sources prevents the acceptance of supplication and acts of worship. And I deem by Allah that there's a deeper meaning. Because if I eat junk food, my physical body will be affected and I'll have a hard time. If I have arthritis, what is arthritis? Does anybody know what really is the root of arthritis?
Is it an inflammation of your joints?
It's inflammation and an acid problem. High acidity. So if I eat stuff that aggravates that, and I can't go into ruku'ah, and I can't go into sujood, look what I'm doing to myself. Just as eating impure sources prevents the acceptance of supplication and acts of worship, as mentioned in the hadith recorded by Imam Ahmed, that Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu said that Allah's messenger said, "O people, Allah is tayyib." Now, sometimes when you say to an Arab person, "Kayf halak," he say, "Ana tayyib," I'm good. So this is it also means pure. Now I think when the Arab is saying "Ana tayyib," he's not being egotistical in saying he's pure, but he's saying I'm good. Alhamdulillah, it's all good. It's all good in the hood. So, O people, Allah is tayyib, pure and good, and only accepts that which is tayyib. Now I want to tell you that this particular hadith is from the 40 Hadith Qudsi. It's a very, very powerful, it's an unquestionable hadith. Allah has indeed commanded the believers with what He has commanded the messengers. And He said in Surah 23, verse 51, "O you messengers, eat of the tayyibat, that which is pure and good, and do righteous deeds. Verily I am well acquainted with what you do, and O you who believe, eat of the lawful things that we have provided you with." He then mentioned a man who is engaged in a long journey, whose hair is untidy, and who is covered in dust. He raises his hands to the sky and says, "Ya Rab, O Lord, O Lord." Yet his food is from the unlawful, his drink is from the unlawful, his clothes are from the unlawful, and he was nourished by the unlawful. So how can his supplication be accepted? So a lot of times, if we are not doing these things, we are cutting off the source. It's like a gas hose with a crimp in it. Now, I'm not even going to get into the argument about zabiha meat and all that kind of stuff, because there are huge arguments. But I just want you to recognize that if you don't keep your diet pure, and we're going to look at some of what that means, that it affects your very supplication. And so the first thing I want to talk about today, and some of you aren't going to like this, okay? And I just love you. I got bad love for you, but I just want you to hear me because I love you. And so I have to say what's beneficial to you. As your shepherd, I want for you what I want for myself. And when I'm preaching, I'm working on myself. As a matter of fact, if you notice in this class, I rarely eat sweets. Let's look at some facts. Refined sugar. Now, isn't it interesting how the world deludes us? Because when we say refined, what do we think?
We're thinking it's being purified.
We actually are deluded to believe it's improved.
Yeah.
But it's the very opposite.
I
Let's-
like that chocolate.
Yeah, let's look at some facts. According to scientists, and I lifted this out of a journal, the single worst ingredient in the modern diet is refined sugar. The most impure, crystallized sugar. Did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us this white stuff in a bag that we buy in 5-pound bags? He did not. It can have harmful effects on metabolism and contribute to all sorts of disease. Added sugars like sucrose and high fructose corn syrup contain a whole bunch of calories with no essential nutrients, in other words known as empty calories.
How about dark chocolate?
Dark chocolate, if it doesn't have a lot of sugar in it, is an antioxidant.
But it is sweet.
Okay. Now, there are no proteins, essential fats, vitamins, or minerals in sugar. It's just energy. Well, there are a lot of books out there, one of them called The Sugar Blues, that I would encourage you to read. It actually talks about how the addictive qualities of sugar and how we eat it, we get a high. And I'm going to tell you, my father didn't believe this. So I told him when our kids were little, "Dad, please don't stoke the children up with sugar, because they will go nuts and you won't be able to have them." So he said to me one day, he said, "Son, I didn't believe you, man. I thought you were just talking rubbish." He said, but we gave them ice cream and chocolate and they were all over the walls. They were just climbing the walls. I said, well, I can't say I didn't tell you so. So, added sugar is high in fructose. It can overload your liver. Okay? A little bit, such as from fruit. And whoever bought the apples and the bananas, may Allah bless you, may Allah give you Jannah Firdaus, because you brought to us something that is good. Inshallah. Yes. So, what happens is that a little bit from fruit after an exercise session turned into glycogen, which is stored in the liver until we need it. If the liver is full of glycogen, though, eating a lot of fructose overloads the liver, forcing it to turn the fructose into fat. Now, what do we know about fat? What does it do to our arteries? It clogs them. Overloading the liver with fructose can cause non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. This is you can look this up. It's a disease that is actually mimics the disease of alcohol because we eat so much sugar in this country. There's a research article that I could not find, but I have read it, that back in the 40s, people ate like, say, 10 pounds of sugar a year, the average human. Now they eat 40 pounds or more. There is 125 teaspoons of sugar in a Coke.
16-ounce Coke, right?
No, a canned Coke.
Oh, that's 16 ounces. Isn't the can 16 ounce?
I didn't think it was 16 ounces, 12 ounces. Okay. Regardless, you're basically putting poison in your body. Is that pure? When Allah talks about pure food, did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala drop down some Coke from the paradise and give it to us? Now, I know some of you might think it tastes like that, but it just didn't happen that way. Okay, it just didn't happen that way. When fructose gets turned into fat in the liver, it is shipped out as VLDL cholesterol. Do we have any nurses or doctors in here today? Usually we do. Okay. They could give us a little lesson, a deeper lesson than I'm giving you. Not all of the fat gets out, and some of it can lodge in the liver, leading to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Sugar can cause insulin resistance, a stepping stone towards metabolic syndrome and diabetes. They have actually dropped the sugar rate. Years ago, if your blood sugar was over 120, you would be diagnosed with either diabetes or pre-diabetic. It's now 100 in an effort to get people to eat what is pure. The last 6 times I've been checked, despite the fact that I've given up most fruit, despite the fact that I have predominantly given up desserts, my blood sugar was 106. I'm working hard on this. I brought a book, which I think Mason hit it when she saw it. I'm just teasing Mason. It's called Wheat Belly. And I encourage you guys to read this because I want a healthy family so that we can do dawah for a long time. This is an amazing read. It's Wheat Belly by Dr. William Davis, MD. And it talks about the addictive powers of genetically modified wheat. And it says here, do you know that eating 2 slices of whole wheat bread can increase blood sugar more than 2 tablespoons of pure sugar cane? Sorry. It's empirical work. It gives you all the medical evidence.
My son has a wheat belly.
He has a wheat belly. Well, this doctor talks about if you want to get rid of your bagel butt and your bagel gut, stop eating bread. And that's what he calls it. So he is a cardiologist. And he has gotten many people to avoid surgery because he took them off of genetically modified bread. Insulin resistance can progress to type 2 diabetes, People who drink sugar-sweetened beverages have an 83% high risk of type 2 diabetes because we are not eating that which is pure. Sugar feeds cancer cells, one of the leading causes of death worldwide, and is characterized by uncontrolled growth and multiplication of cells. Sugar consumption is a known driver of inflammation, another potential cause of cancer. Due to its effect on hormones and the brain, sugar has unique fat-promoting effects. Because it causes massive dopamine release in the brain, sugar is highly addictive. Sugar fools the reward center of the brain. It actually, and let's look at what we do as parents. We say to our children, if you do good, I'll take you for ice cream. I'll reward you with an addictive product that Allah didn't give us. Instead of, if you do good, I have some nice apples for you. One of the things that I love about my Arab friends is that for dessert, they often serve a platter of fruit. And they know how to pick the best fruit in the world. Nobody can pick fruit like Arabs. They've got some kind of a gift. They can look at the fruit and they know it's good. It's just amazing. Forgive me if anybody else has the same talent, but just in my, I sounded like I got an Arabic accent there, didn't I? Same talent. That's just been my experience in life. They just, and particularly melons, they have this ability to find the best cantaloupes and melons. So we also know, and by the way, there's a doctor in Ocala, a great friend of mine, Dr. Yusuf El-Yaman, and he has actual videos playing in his office all the time about what I'm talking about today. Constantly trying to educate people about how what they're putting in their body and what it's doing to them. Sugar is a leading contributor to obesity in both children and adults. We have more obesity in America among children than any other country in the universe. Refined sugar negatively impacts our health.